Hey, good morning. It's Fort Worth Playboy, and this is the Fort Worth Playboy Morning Show on June 3rd, 2024. I think it's June 3rd. It's been a it's been a very busy weekend, and I am glad you're here. And we have a big week ahead of us for you. First week of summer, always a good time for meeting girls, getting out, changing your routine, getting some sun, and feeling better. And any type of holiday, which this is for a lot of people, always always puts people in the right mood to meet up and to hook up. So there's no real downside. It's not like you're going into school or um, everybody gets crazy busy. So what do we do here? We cover game, pickup, relationships, and sex. And when I say we, I mean me and my Playboy's Bunny, who's usually my sidekick here. And on Thursday mornings, we'll be here together, usually taking apart something a little bit larger. Um, but we fall under the umbrella of the red pill being like MGTOW and men's rights activists, and anything that has to do with intersectional dynamics, be it psychological, economic, sociological, the big picture stuff. And we kind of leave that to the big boys. When you come to our timeline, we try to focus in on tactical, usable, on the ground information that you can use that day to help move a girl from complete stranger to naked and in your bed, or repairing 20 or 30-year marriages and reigniting that spark. So that's what we do here. And we always begin with a maxim. We will start with maxim number 41 as soon as I get it up here. It's like 2 days off and I'm rusty. So, maxim number 41: the more experience you have with women, the more you'll know which women have experience with men. Corollary to 41: it is the inexperienced beta male who is most often in the dark about a woman's sexual history and liable to be victimized by the cheating slut. Um, this is from Chateau Hartiste. Maxim number 41. This is where we always say, you want to engage with yes girls. When you have time in the beginning, you will deal with maybe girls, and to immediately get rid of and ignore no girls. And this is one of those things that I believe you become more adept at reading girls um, in your initial interactions and their engagement with you, because I really do see a lot of beginner guys get stuck on no or maybe girls, and they're spinning their wheels, girls that are not interested in and will never be interested in them, and they don't have the skills to turn a maybe into a yes girl. Therefore, they're really practicing game on a losing field. They literally can't win. So you want to get as many reps. It's just like going to the gym. You want to go as often as you can, get as many reps as possible, get as many workouts in as possible consistently to get that beginner base down fast. And the same thing is with game. The more experience, again, the third word in here is experience. As you get more experience, just like in a sport, you will become more adept at reacting to what's going on the playing field. The more you'll know which women have experience with men, and this means you basically can read them better. And some guys like girls that are a little bit more experienced. They don't really care for the super naive, inexperienced girls, or it just depends on what you want. But what will happen is, with enough experience, is you'll be able to identify yes, maybe, and no girls, and then also identify girls that are more within what you like to see. In the corollary, it is the inexperienced beta male. The less these guys know, the further they are away from game, the less experience, the more of a beginner you are, the more you're at the mercy of these girls. Because girls, even the most inexperienced, out of touch, uninformed girl knows more about men than the average guy knows about women. because girls start when they're like 5 or 6, and you can even see it when they're really little. You put like a birthday party of kids, mixed gender, and they're like 6, 7 years old. And the girls will be watching the boys, talking about the boys, talking to the boys' moms about the boys, talking to their moms about the boys, watching what the boys are doing, kind of messing with the boys a little bit, testing them out a little bit, seeing what they'll do. And what are the boys doing? They're not paying any attention to girls whatsoever until they're probably around 15 or 16. And then it's very intermittent. It's funny, you hear from a lot of college girls, they're like trying to find a guy that she can hold his attention. Because guys, even in college, are still pretty self-centered. They're like, oh yeah, women, it's a side thing. It's a sidebar, which is fine. It's the way we're designed. But for women don't even have hobbies. Men are their hobbies. Meeting men, seducing men, hiding men from one another, having sex with men, telling her friends about men, lying about men. All of this, that's their hobby. So therefore, they're going to have more experience than the average guy. Even an inexperienced girl still has more knowledge about men than men have about women in general. So the more experience you have with women, the faster, the more accurate, the better you will know which women have experience with men. You'll be able to read them better. And then again, corollary to number 41 is the inexperienced beta male who is the most often in the dark about a woman's sexual history and liable to be victimized by a cheating slut. Again, it happens all the time. In fact, I remember reading recently, there's a book written by a very well-recognized male author, and his wife took her own life like the year previously. Well, after she passed, he goes into her phone. He's getting her affairs together, and they had been married about 10 or 12 years, and they were both semi-famous. And he discovers that basically she was cheating on him. She had a boyfriend or 2 or 3 or 4 boyfriends the entire length of their relationship and their marriage. And he was a relatively academic, medium experienced guy. And this girl, for their entire relationship, was able to hide all this because he never checked her phone. He didn't have any, he had no experience to build off of knowing that his wife was running around on him the entire length of their marriage and their relationship, really. So it's quite an eye opener. And again, it shows you the necessity of having a minimum amount of experience in this to really protect yourself, protect your interests. But Chateau Maxim number 41, the more experience you have with women, the more you'll know which women have experience with men. Let's go to the next slide. And we're going to talk about indications of interest. Girls must give out indicators of interest to men they find attractive. She cannot risk a high-value man just wandering off. Again, women will put themselves in the proximity of a man that they're interested in. And that's sometimes all that they'll do. That's their first step. They know he's going to be at a certain place at a certain time. They will put themselves within like a 10-foot wide radius. They might stand behind him. They might stand over there. They might be over there. Or if they know that he's coming down this hallway every day at 4 o'clock, that's when he goes to the office, then she's going to stand in that hallway every day at 4 o'clock and catch him. Try to catch his eye. Try to get him to please make the first move. So again, remember that women's indicators of interest start with her simply being within a radius of your presence. That for women, that is an indicator of interest, believe it or not. Just, that's just the way it is. It's how they start. But when we talk about once you've made contact, there will be indicators of interest. And you have to realize why they must do this, and they do it consciously and unconsciously, is they cannot risk, because there's so few men that they're going to be interested in over time. They can't risk you like not recognizing the indicators of interest that they are interested. But again, it's so subtle. You have to know what you're looking at. And it's little stuff like this. And I try to put up as many like observations of girls touching their hair, girls watching a guy, and as soon as he turns, she whips that head around. I think that was one of these cases. Was she sitting next to another actor, and they got along famously on the set. And it's, you see a lot of this in their interviews. But the indicators of interest is how to know if a girl is interested in you. And if you can't spot a girl who's interested, you're never going to fuck her. Discover how to spot. And then I have a book on the indicators of interest. But I wanted to give you guys an example. You'll get that wide smile. You get that eye glaze over. Engagement. They'll touch their hair. They'll touch their arm. They'll touch you. Girls never accidentally touch a man. But, you know, she'll laugh. She'll put her hand on your forearm. She'll laugh. She'll grab you. She'll punch you in the shoulder. You see that a lot. There's certain indicators of interest that can also, you can really, I classed them in the book, but you need to be able to spot these things. And it's funny because every guy that's bought the book has at some point reached out to me and said, man, I missed out on a lot of women. When I realized that, you know, where like the girl, like there's a room that's relatively empty and she'll sit down right next to him and then borrow something from him. And girls don't make contact. They don't talk to men they're not interested. They sure as hell don't sit down next to them. And they almost will never, ever, ever bother any guy that they don't know for anything ever, unless they have some interest. They want you to start a conversation. They want you to notice them. And these things are very important because girls can't approach you. It's just, they're not hardwired for that. They can't do it. And guys get all kind of bent out of shape. They're like, well, you know, I make a lot of money and I really worked on my career and I go to the gym and they should approach me. Well, they're not. And you're going to end up alone and dead because girls will not. And the anomaly proves the rule. Every once in a while, you'll have some joker jump in and, oh, this girl approached me like in 1985. And well, the exception proves the rule. Women will not approach you first. You have to approach them. And then you have to, as you're engaging them, look for indicators of interest. I included in my book, like even like how you can kind of tell higher interest when they're, you know, online or through text. And there's certain things you can look for that will present themselves. And like I tell guys, one thing doesn't necessarily mean a lot, but when you start to see clusters of behaviors over time, you can have a pretty good read that the girl's interested or disinterested. It's just as important to be able to read disinterest than interest sometimes. So that's a real deal. Is the reason girls have to consciously and unconsciously show you interest, be it through smile, the biting their lip, giggling, you know, eye contact, is they can't afford for a high value man like yourself to not engage them because there's so few of us. So you have to realize that she's going to put out, you know, signals that say, hey, you're in my proximity. I want you to engage me. I want you to seduce me is basically what they're saying. And then they'll let you know that you're doing a good job or a bad job by their behavior. So girls must give out indicators of interest. They can't help it. To men they find attractive. She cannot risk a high value man wandering off. So just remember that there are physical manifestations of her interest, first being within your range of your proximity, and then you go from there. And she cannot stop herself. So next tweet, Rodney Abernathy, he says, I was reading one of Rollo's books, and he mentioned that Royalty, which is Chateau Artiste in DC, said that younger women are easier to fuck than older women because older women want serious relationships and younger women don't. Well, there's a couple, and this comes from a couple things, is that we're going to look at this from the older guy's perspective. And generally, this is correct. You'll also see that older women don't have as many barriers over time at around 35 to 40. A lot of the needing to, and it's all very hardwired, needing to know exactly who the father of children are is hardwired into women, which is why they'll become a little bit more particular when they're younger. And they'll also worry about slut shaming and social standing. And a lot of that stuff goes away as they get older because they realize how little it actually affects. And at around 38, 40, the certainty of paternity, because most women, they're not as fertile, goes away. So it all comes down to really you, because you run enough game and you become kind of a high value man. Everybody seems pretty easy after a while. But what I tell my beginner guys, and especially guys that are getting divorced at 35, 40, 50, older women are hostile to men their own age. That's the point of this tweet. The man her age is a peer, not a superior. So if you're 42, 43, and you get divorced, and your wife is 40, or your ex-wife, because you got married right out of college, that's pretty normal. And so what most guys think is, well, I need to find a girl who's age appropriate. I need to date girls that are like 40, 42, 43, close to my age, what I'm used to. And that would be a mistake, because women at around 40 and up will be very hostile to men their own age, because you remind them of every bad relationship she's ever had, every guy that's done her wrong, her ex-husband, her ex-husbands, every ex-boyfriend, and the bosses that did her wrong. So usually, like we always suggest, if you're in your 40s or 50s or late 30s, is start with a 10-year gap. Start looking at 10 years younger and longer than that, 10, 15, 20 years. 10 seems to be the magic number that we see a lot of success with. Women your own age will be actually harder to date. And that's just the way it is. And we've seen this over time. The guys go, God, these girls are fucking bitches to me. And then we go, stop. Just stop trying to date women that are like your age or slightly younger. Go 10 years younger. And there's more of a balance, an attraction balance, that younger women, let's say 30, 35, 32, will be more interested and more receptive to your advances when you're in your 40s. It just seems to work. And that's one of those insider things that we learned, and we always try to convey to our guys, that when you get divorced, or if you get divorced in your late 30s, 40s, 50s, we're going to get you into shape. We're going to kind of straighten you out, get your head right, and then make sure that you're not trying to hit on women your own age, because it's a bad idea. It's just, you're going to have a low success rate, and it may not be quite as fun. So let me see if we have any questions. And again, if you have any questions, go to YouTube to ask them. I'm going to try to figure out how to do streaming on X, on Twitter in the next week. Let me look at this for a second. Balancer 182 asks, I had a barrister stare a hole at me even though there were customers in front of me when it's my turn to buy a coffee. She didn't make eye contact. What was that about? Forgive me, and I probably didn't read this right. He's talking about like a girl that works the counter. Anytime you're dealing with customer service, they're required to be friendly to you. So don't be very cautious, relatively cautious for us. Always be, gracious. But again, don't misinterpret good customer service with flirting. It's such a fine line. If you don't have a lot of experience, always kind of like fall to the side of they're doing their job, which is to be, to get better tips, to give better service. So anytime you get in that position, she probably thought you looked like somebody she knew. She thought you were somebody she did know. And a lot of times it's just like like when you see somebody, you go, I think I know them. And you stare at them, and then get eye contact with you and you're like, oh shit. And that's what that is, especially once you have experience, once you're good at this stuff, you can usually pretty quickly tell the difference between customer service and flirting. But again, always being gracious, always saying hi, always, making eye contact. You practice this with everyone you come in contact with. And so you have to look at it that way. I don't have, let me go to the next tweet. I'm going to have to, you will see that I have to edit this a little bit later. It's not going to be pretty this morning, I can tell you that. Every seducer, every great seducer has 1,000 failures under his belt. One thing, and there's a lot of guys agreeing with me in here, and some of the heavy hitters over time will sometimes jump in. The deal is not every woman is going to be attracted to you, and you're going to have to take a shot and get shot down. You're going to go through, especially if you're like doing some of the online dating, you're going to go through literally thousands of women, hundreds of thousands of women. You're going to have thousands of conversations that go nowhere. It's just part of the deal. If you're going to sort out, and bang 10, 20, 30, 100 women, you're going to go through literally tens of thousands of contacts. You start looking back, you're like, holy shit, I've talked to a lot of people. And so it's just not, and that's like these girls are always like, when they get ran through, they don't want to date unless it's super serious. Well, the thing is, everything starts with casual sex. All long-term relationships start as a casual hookup and then develop into something else, unless it's an arranged marriage, which we don't see that much in the U.S. Every single serious relationship starts out as a casual hookup. And every great seducer has 1,000 failures under his belt. And that can be even everything from like, she never responds to your approach. She shoots you down, or you go out and you guys actually bang and you want something more, but it never develops into that. These are all different failures and levels of failure, but mostly you just see that you'll make contact with tens of thousands of women over time, and it'll never go anywhere, but you'll also have hundreds of successes. So if not thousands over time. So you just have to know. And it's like I tell guys from the very beginning, one of the things that slows men down in seduction and attraction and all running game is they take too long to recover. Like a girl will ghost them and they're like, oh man, what did I do? I mean, what do I need to change? Is it me? I mean, what did I say? You have more knowledge than 99.9% of the male population. Whatever you're doing, you can make adjustments. That's fine. That's always getting better. But you just have to start approaching this, and women, kind of like you play sports. Like if you blow a play, well, you don't really have a lot of time to like think about it. You have to get ready for the next play. So what, and then you get better because you actually run the play correctly the second time. So you have to get good at recovering quickly and putting things, failures or misses or blown plays behind you. And we always say, develop a short memory. And guys that do this get better faster. You have to develop a short memory and an ability to recover from rejection. Something doesn't work out. 99% of the time, if you've been doing this stuff for 6 months, you already probably have a good structure, a good base to work off of. Before that, it's kind of like trial and error. But after a while, you have to realize that what you're doing is right and proper, and it's a good structure and a good form. And if a girl doesn't plug herself into it, that's not your problem. That's her problem. And your job is to recover quickly, move on to the next girl that's going to be far more interested in you and a better fit than the girl that walked off. So you have to get used to recovering quickly. And it's one of the keys of good seduction is guys. And that's where you'll see these more advanced guys are always like, next, 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 next. But you can't do that in the beginning because you're going to blow through every girl and you're going to pass over some yes girls because you don't know what to look for just yet. Kind of like our tweet earlier today, where, you through experience, you become better at reading these girls, and you will over time get far better at selecting yes girls. And that's where these guys use like how to build your dating system. My system, it's always 1 or 2 dates and then they close. Nobody's ever gone to a third date with any girl because you get better at selecting who you're going to meet up with. And you meet up with enthusiastic women that are excited to see you, meet you, get to know you, have sex with you. And you get better at selecting those girls. And the girls that are not interested or put up walls or they ran through or they had a bad time with other men, to get rid of them fast and get rid of them early, and move on to girls that are far more engaging with you. Dating only has a 10% success rate. That would probably be pretty accurate. That would actually probably be pretty good, pretty consistent. Every once in a while, you'll get guys that have slightly better, that 20%. But a lot of that comes down to their environment and their reputation and the girls that they're around. If you move towards like local celebrity, semi-famous, you're like the lead in a band that's local and somewhat well-known, you're going to close more women as opposed to if you're new to town and no one knows you. So a lot of it has to do with circumstance. And just know that you can build your own local celebrity. There's a number of ways, but every great seducer has 1,000, if not 10,000 failures under his belt. And you will too, but you'll also have hundreds, if not thousands of wins under your belt. So you just have to know that it truly is a numbers game. Even no matter how good you get at picking winners, you're still going to go through hundreds, if not thousands of women over time. So the video, it's a little actress. She does the beta bait, a little sexual. And then she fucks off. There you go. So this is a good representation that when you meet girls that are kind of run through or burn out or fucked out, they'll go sexual early. If a girl goes sexual, it's okay to flirt and it's okay to, use a double entendre and, flirt around. But generally healthy girls will wait for you to go sexual or flirt or tease her in a sexual manner first. Girls that tend to bring up sex first before you do are baiting you to see how needy you are. And it's just like when they send nudes and you've never met them. Your job is to make fun of them. You go, oh my God, I love that carpet in the back. Where did you get that? Or, you mentioned something about the wall, something on the wall. I mean, they want to see if you'll like lose your fucking mind because you're so needy and hard up and horny and never see naked women. But when you see naked women, new naked women every day, you're like, what? Oh yeah. And then you get into it, over time. But again, it's beta bait. Anytime a girl goes sexual first, there's those exceptions. There are anomalies, but you want to use those anomalies as proving the rule. The exceptions prove the rule in this world. And so when they go sexual first and you respond in a needy, enthusiastic, oh God, I never get laid, thank God manner, it tells them all they need to know that you don't get laid, that you're needy and probably not somebody they want to be around. So that's why you keep it back. some girl says, "Oh, I love when a guy motorboats my tits," and you're just like, "Hey, thanks for the medical report." Anyway, then you just go into a subject that you find interesting. So don't let girls bait you into this stuff. And guys got really confused because a lot of them, they think that if she goes sexual first, that it's like an indicator of interest, or, she don't take the bait. Sexuality is an entirely different world than indicators of interest. It's your job to make that stuff happen. Again, remember, girls cannot be responsible for anything sexual happening. So therefore, if she's bringing up something sexual early, she's baiting to see how needy you are. And you're not needy at all. You could go with her or with that. Either way, you're happy. Your feet are tapping. So again, girls will beta bait you by going sexual early, which means before you start flirting with her. And if you react, you fail. It happens all the time. It's one of those things that once you start talking to a lot of women, you'll start seeing it more and more. So if you're interested in anything we've covered today, we have more resources at fortworthplayboy.gumroad.com. Fitness, finances, and fucking. We have indicators of interest, the VIP bundle, the best of Chateau Artis. Take the dating world by storm. Chicks dig jerks. It goes on and on. Whatever your interest is, help support this channel financially, and you get better at meeting, picking up, and moving women from complete strangers to naked and in your bed. Everybody wins. And so that's what we have going on this morning. And if you have sat through this show, I appreciate it. I will be back here at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. And if you have any questions, by all means, you can DM me on Twitter. You can send it to fortworthplayboy@gmail.com. And it's all spelled out, Fort Worth Playboy, just like it is on the Gumroad. And go direct, and I will try to get your question answered on the broadcast, because I always think that the verbal explanation and answer is better than tweeting or texting or email, and you'll stay anonymous. So I appreciate you guys. Hope you have a great Monday.